you cut the opponent in different ways. Okay, and then you want to clean the blood. Sometimes we put it on the sleeve, fold it, and bring. So now the blood is here at the sword. Okay, this is a way to tie the sageo. When it's long, you can tie it like that, or you can tie only one. I like this tying. I saw it in one place and I really like it. Many people, they actually tie it only at the bottom, so they're going to do it like that. I'll show you. Okay, so you can see here, I put it close. So the string goes inside and come back. Now it's leaning on the sword. You can see here in the light, maybe better. I cannot see much, but okay, you can see it's leaning on the sword, but actually when I tilt the sword down, you see, the string will fall. And when you display on the rack, let's say you have a rack and you display it, so usually this will fall, but you tighten here, and yeah, that's how it goes. This one can come here and lean on the sword or on the sageo itself, like that. See, it's nice. So this is the traditional way to tie the sageo. The sageo is actually attaching the saya, the scabbard, with your belt to the hakama. So when you fight, you don't lose your scabbard. Okay, I'm going to talk about those little details. I'll make a special video for that, so you can really understand how to attach the sword to your uniform and how to tie the sageo in different ways. Now, when I pull this, you see, I just pull, and it becomes free. See, it's free, right? So that's how you gonna do. Okay, so let's start the lesson and see how it works. Today I want to show you a few techniques that got to do with the noto. Okay, noto is a very important part of iai. So when you are coming to bring the sword to the saya, to the scabbard, after you did your chiburi, cleaning the blood from the sword, right? So this is chiburi, right? You cut the opponent in different ways. Okay, and then you want to clean the blood. Sometimes we put it on the sleeve, fold it, and bring. So now the blood is here. It's important to make sure that when you bring the noto, you don't want to cut this part of your hand. Okay, because sometimes this part can be cut. I remember my teacher, Tzabar Erem, who is an Aidan and also practiced ninjutsu with Hatsumi sensei and Tanimura sensei, and also studied Iaido with Nagamoto sensei, which was he already died, but he was a master for Muso Ryu, one of the students of Nakayama Hakudo Hiromichi sensei, which Danzaki, my master, who died also unfortunately in 2003 and was born in 1906. So they were a student of Nakayama Hakudo Hiromichi sensei, who was the 16th Soke of the Muso Ryu, and was also the emperor instructor of the Japan emperor, or the emperor National Guard, and he was one of the influencer of the modern Iaido as we know today. He actually changed the name to Iaido. When I was introduced to the sword, I studied a lot of basics, but then slowly I was really interested in the core. So I started to go to Japan and visited different masters, especially the Kenshukan Hongu Dojo, and over there were a lot of masters, and even though they're all doing Muso Ryu and they're all doing the same art, they had different approach to to different skills. Each teacher showed me a different techniques, so I could apply it in the teaching. But I, of course, studied with Ono sensei, Ono Morinaga sensei, which was 8 Dan, and one of the best students of Danzaki Tomoski. When I started to study with him, he was already 81, and I was maybe in my early 30s. It was in 1997, and he had a special approach to the noto. Now, most people, when you bring the noto, okay, you put your hands here after the chiburi, and then you push the thumb down, and then you bring your hand to the koikuchi. Koikuchi is the opening, right? And then you fold, and you put your hands like that. So the hand is holding the koikuchi. The koikuchi is the opening. We call it koikuchi because like a little mouth. So this is the opening for the sword. So the sword will come in and slide here inside. Now when the sword slides inside, it's important that the mine, the back of the sword, will lean against the lower part of the saya. Now if you don't do it right, you might cut the top here. I had a sword at the beginning when I practiced that was cut here. So when I slide the sword and it wasn't sliding well, I could feel the blade here in my hand. Of course, it's an Iaido, so it doesn't cut my hand. But when I put the sword, I have to make sure that the back of the sword, the mine, this part, which is not a cutting edge, will lean against the lower part of the koikuchi. So you can see here that if I lift it up, this will cut the upper part of the saya, which is a very light pine wood. So you want to make sure that it's leaning downwards. Okay. So now the blade slide in, and there is no way the blade will hit the upper part because the blade is leaning on the back part of the lower part of the saya. Okay. That's why the saya is held in that position that the blade is upward. It is a special difference between the Japanese sword and other swords. So if I do it like that, now the sword will lean down, you can see. So now the blade, if I slide here, the blade will cut the wood inside. Okay, we have that black lacquer or other colors to protect the wood, but inside, if you look inside carefully, you can see that actually there's wood inside. Okay, and when you see a saya of somebody who practiced long time and he practiced well, you will see that this part is dark but is complete. And when they don't practice well, you can see that this card is already damaged a bit, and also here at the top part you will see that it had been damaged. That means that the blade cut the top part. I remember that my teacher told me the first 5 years you practice slow. I remember I went to Japan to buy swords. I buy 2 swords. I buy the katana and the wakizashi. Tsabar gave me addresses of a few shops, and when there is a different story, I will tell you the whole story in another time. But when I got to that shop, I think it was Japan Sword, if I'm not wrong, in Tokyo, and there was a teacher there, and he sold sword, right? And he told me that he's a 4th degree black belt in Iaido. So he told me, okay, there's this sword. Okay, then I picked up a sword that was within my budget. An Iaido, a Japanese practice sword for katana practice sword, which is not a cutting edge, but it's sharp, but it's not cutting. Like if you touch it, it doesn't cut, and this is good for practice. And then I asked him, can I buy another saya? He said, huh? Why you want to buy another saya? I said, well, I live in Israel, and in Israel we don't have any way to buy any swords. There are no swords in Israel. I cannot buy, and if I break the saya, it's better to have a spare one. So then he was smiling and he told me, I will not sell you, even if you give me $1 million. I said, what? Well, I don't have $1 million, but it's only cost a few hundred, maybe $50 or something. He said, I'm not going to sell you. I said, why? He said, because if I sell you, you will never perfect your technique. So you must practice slow. The first 5 years you practice slow. So your techniques will be so good, so later when you practice fast, you will have no mistakes. And I stood still. I was really shocked from what he said. And I said to myself, wow, 5 years, that's a long time. But that makes sense. You know what? I'm embracing it. I'm not practicing fast for 5 years. Of course, I tried a few times, but I remember that was a great advice. And first of all, it teaches me a lot of patience. And swordsmanship is an art that teaches you a lot of patience. And many of us don't have patience, especially now in the new world. Everything is fast, boom, 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 the clips, the media, the information, everything's so fast. And swordsmanship cannot go fast because you need to practice every technique 1,000 times, and you have to make sure that you really define your technique to the max, and every little detail is there. And I remember I came back with the 2 new swords, and I go home and I want to practice fast, but I remember, practice slow, 5 years. So I decided to do that. And I practiced slow, very slow, the first 5 years of my practice. I practiced a lot. I used to practice 2 to 3 hours every day, and that was part of my 8 to 10 hours practice every day, within another 6 to 8 hours teaching every day. So my whole day was around martial arts, because I was teaching martial arts. And when I met Tzabar, it was 1990 when I started to practice with him, and he gave me a sword of another famous master in Israel. His name is Nir Malchi. He was a master of Tai Chi, and he also was a third dan in Kendo. And he came to Japan in the 80s, and then later he moved to Taiwan or to other places and studied Tai Chi, and then he brought Tai Chi to Israel. But he had a sword, and the sword had a cut here. And I asked Sabah, why is it cut here? He said, well, he didn't perform the noto well and the nukitsuke well. So when he draw the sword, I'll show you here so you can get the idea. He draw the sword and then he pull it too early, and the sword cut the saya on the top, and then he came out. So he didn't blast it here, he didn't rip it all the way, but he cut. Then one time Sabar told me he went to see the annual festival of martial arts in Japan. I don't remember exactly the year, but every year they have a traditional festival. And he said one time there was a demonstration, one guy with the white clothes, and he just did a fast noto, and suddenly I saw a burst of blood jumping from his hand, and he fainted, and they took him to the hospital. What happened? He cut his hand here, because it was a tamashigiri demonstration that they cut the bamboo straw, the tatami, the folding tatami, and he did the noto so fast, and he cut here because he put the hand wrongly, and when he did the noto, he was cutting here the whole hand, and then he reached the vein, and the old blood jumped, stained all his uniform, the floor, and he had to go to the hospital. And I remember those stories, and I said, okay, I must practice slow, so next time I don't have problems. Number one, I don't have swords. I don't have 2 swords I cannot spend money on a flight just to get a sword. There's no way. And number 2, it's good to practice it carefully, so make sure my technique will be better. So I embraced those tips, and I think it was helpful. Okay, so today I'm going to show you the differences about holding the sword, the koikuchi, in different ways, and what are the difference, and what is my style of doing after studying from Ono Sensei. And then I changed and I picked his special way, which is really different than many others. First thing, I'll remove the swords, put it aside, and when you push the sword down, you fold with the 3 fingers. Okay, you have 3 fingers, and you're folding the koikuchi around like that. You put your fingers here, so you have to twist your hand a little bit and then you attach the palm to the side. You have the kurigata here and the sageo. The kurigata is actually the knot that holding the sageo. Okay, so you're pushing with your thumb, and you can feel the kurigata here at the inner pillow under your pinky. All right, so when you push. Now what you do is like you fold your fingers and you turn, right? Because you bring it back, and then you turn it in, so now you can lean the sword, right? So you have to prepare. Now you need to create like a base for the sword to lean on. So what you do, you hold it like that, you make like an eye, and you put the mine on this point here, and on that point. So the sword is leaning like that on the hand, right? So now when you hold in the koikuchi, you lean it like that. Then you will slide And when the kisaki, the tip of the sword, or the, let's say the end of the part of the sword, which is called kisaki, is the cutting edge, okay, will pass the first point, which is here. Okay, so it will pass, and now it's ready to go in. So you can twist it and then slide it in, and it will slide on your fingers and safely will go into the scabbard. Now you have a space here. Inside here you have a space, so the sword don't go up and cut your skin here. Right? So when you're holding the sword, you're sliding and it goes into the side. Alright, so now this is one way. Another way is to hold the sword like that, to hold the sword with both hands closed. So now your thumb is leaning on the finger and the index finger like that. So now you're holding like that and you're putting the hand like that. This is very common also, most common. Now you make sure that the three fingers are holding at the saya until the tip, and then the finger and the thumb, they're actually above, so they're creating like a route. You see, they're actually above, they're in the air, and then you put the hand here. Now you can put and you can bring it in. All right, let me do one time. Okay, so now you can slide in, and this is the second way. Now, when I saw Ono Sensei first Noto, I was shocked, because first of all, his sword is sharp and real. I remember he was cutting me and showing me some technique. I had this other uniform and he was a bit old, and this is a brand new uniform. I just wore it today the first time. Also, you can practice the traditional Budo with it. Of course, you can put a hakama on top, but when you practice by yourself, you can actually do it without even a hakama, especially when you do standing. You don't need to do the special, you don't need to fold the hakama, especially when you're sitting. Okay, so let's go back to the koikuchi. So now, when I'm holding here, I'm folding like that. So now when the sword is here, it's have to be attached to the body, we'll talk about later. Then I can slide in, and once it passes the first point, I can bring it in and slowly slide in and close. Now if you can see, there's a lot of space in here, in between. So I make sure that the hole, okay, it's like a black hole, right? The hole and the space here is big, and the sword will come in and out without cutting my skin here, just like in that story. Now when I saw Ono Sensei, and also I realized his sword is cutting at the beginning, I didn't know, but then one day he came and he put the sword here and started to demonstrate, and we were all alone in the dojo. It was super quiet. So it was super quiet, was silent, and he put the sword, and I had this old uniform, and I had this little hair coming out of the gi, you know, and he put here, and he brought the sword, the blade, close to my uniform, and he touches the little hair, and the hair he just start to cut those hairs, and I heard the hair is cutting like fire. I was amazed. I thought, this cannot be real. This is like in the movies. It cannot be real. And he put in he do like shh, and I hear. And then I look at my uniform. Oh shit! He actually cut the little hair and make a little bit of a cut inside my gi. And I thought, oh my god! If this touched my body, I'm dead. Now the most amazing thing that I had is actually the way he bring his sword in. So he's doing it like that. So there's no space. And I see his hand so close to the blade, and he come here and he close. And then after a few practice with him, actually 2 years, he's 81, he's 89. I cannot just approach him and say, hey, Ono Sensei, can you show me what you're doing? It's not like that. You know, he's an honorable sensei and one of the best sensei in the country, and there's a lot of respect. You can't just talk to him as you want. But I took one day we were alone, and he really liked me because I used to train with him every day 3 hours. I used to go from Sangohome, if I'm not sure. This is the train station, Ahome, if I'm not wrong. It's very close to Suidobashi. It's the yellow line, if I'm not wrong, and it's very close to the dojo, so it's not too far from the Kodokan. So he used to go to this train station, to the metro every time. And I used to go, it's like MRT in Singapore, and I used to sit on the road just past that. When you get out of the train, you walk a little bit on the way to the dojo. So I had this post, and I was sitting and leaning on that post. Sometimes I sleep because I trained earlier, before 2-3 hours before he comes. And then at 1 o'clock he comes, he wake me up, Eyal-san, hi, dojo. Hi, Teru. We go into the dojo, and then we train 3 hours. Then I escort him to the train station until he go inside, tap the card or the money, whatever, and go, and I bow to him, And after he go, I lift up and I say goodbye, and I see him off until he disappear. Then I go. And this was every day, like a ritual. I had a lot of respect to this teacher. He's one of my best teacher. He is actually the most closest relationship I had with a teacher in Japan, and I loved him so much. And he don't talk a lot. There's not a lot of talking, and I didn't speak good Japanese at the time. So slowly my Japanese got better, and then I could speak more. But I couldn't just go to him and approach, hey, how you do that? Now, when I went to Japan and find this dojo, that was already 7 years of practicing Iai every day. And of course, in Israel, there's no way to do any grading. So I didn't have even a grade. I was nothing. I was no grading. But I already knew maybe 15, 20 katas, not only the Sete kata, but also Muso kata. And I had a good technique pretty much for that time, of course. And of course, when I got to the dojo, I improved, I learned a lot, and eventually I learned the whole Muso Ryu style. Of course, I'm still learning, still practicing, still improving, still have mistakes to do that I do, and this is like an endless journey. But the thing is that I was already close enough to ask him. So that day I came, and he was performing the noto, and then I said, Ono-sensei, simasen, excuse me, can you show me please how you do this noto, because I see the sword is so close to your hand. I said, oh, that's a good question. I was waiting for it. I said, really? I was smiling, I was happy. And we were alone in the dojo, so I could feel more relaxed. There's no camera. And he was smiling. So he said, this is my noto. And I will teach you. You're my student, I will teach you. I'm happy that you're interested. So he took the sword out, and then he showed me, and then he said, okay, I put my finger here, and I put the finger here like that. So you see, he don't do like that, he put a little bit up. And now I make a little space, it's like an eye. So it's actually fit the blade design. So it's wide at the bottom, and it's thin at the top. So then I go, and here I have a little bit of grasp, so I can feel with this part and this part, I'm grasping a little bit the mine here, so I have control of the sword. When I'm sliding it, I have a little control, and then I know that it won't cut me. There's enough space to put it in. So that was his special noto, and I adopted it. Took me about 2 years to feel comfortable with it. Seriously, 2 years. Because first time I felt the blade cutting, I really didn't have control. It's like, it took me like long time to do a fast, noto, or, when you do the okudo noto, when you're just placing the third last part of the blade, and then you have to slide it in. It was not easy. And it's a fast draw. It's a fast noto, you put it back quickly, and a few times I stabbed myself. I used the Iaido, so it didn't cut me too badly, but later I also used the hikenn. Hikenn, it's a live blade, and yeah, it took time. It took me about 2 years to really feel comfortable. I mean, comfortable that I can go just wild, fast, and don't care, and go in. So you can practice it. So first you have the first one, from here. Let me adjust the camera. Okay, so first you have the first one that is here. Okay, you have more space. Okay, you can do it. Let's say you did Chiburi, and now you bring back, and you bring it in. Then you have the second one, when you're holding like that. Okay, so you go, and then you go, and you bring it in. Okay, Let me take the camera a bit far so you can see better. Okay, and then you have the second one. Okay, so you can see here, and slide it in. Okay, and then you have the last type noto that Ono Morinaga sensei. And this is the noto I use. You can see here how tight it is, almost closed completely and closing. Another thing I want to show you is about the bringing the sword back. So you have to use your thumb here. You push the tsuba here. Okay. Now when the habaki, this part called habaki, when the habaki reach your finger, okay, here, so you can feel it here, that tip here. Okay, when that tip hits your finger, you know that you have to withdraw the hand back a bit, and then you slide the habaki into the koikuchi here. And the habaki is wider, so he will expand a bit and then hold the side. So when you lower the sword, you see it doesn't fall. But if the sword is old already, usually it will fall. And that's why you have to secure and put your finger. Now the finger also is another story. Some people, most people they hold here, some people they hold here. But never hold in the center, because when you open in the center, you're going to cut your thumb. So you have to put it here. I put it inside. So this finger is important because it's the one who pushes the blade out. You see, I push. So that will help to start the draw. You see? And now I will withdraw it. Okay, so you push and then you withdraw. Okay, then after the push, you make sure that your finger come here and holding the side. Okay, so you push, and then you bring the saya to its position. It can be outside like that if it's a yoko. If it's a yoko nukitsuke, it can be down like that. If it's a tate noto or tate nukitsuke, that you withdraw from top and you will cut from top. Okay, so it's depend which draw you're going to do, which nukitsuke you're going to do, and then this finger and the hand that hold the saya have to incorporate along the practice, along the exercise that you're going to perform, right? So very important, the finger, push and bring back and secure it. Okay, so you never want to hold the sword and release and hold like that, because now somebody can stall. Somebody come and stall you back. So also it's against stall. Somebody want to stall you holding. Okay, then you can put another fingers, or you can enforce, or you can grab the sword. Okay, because somebody can just pull your sword in this. And another thing is that the sword can lean down and it will fall down. You don't want to walk and the sword is falling. All right, so the fingers is always important. All right, so this is for today lesson, koikuchi. Okay, koikuchi, different options, 1, 2, and 3, like that. Okay, I don't recommend doing the Ono Sensei Noto Koikuchi hold, because it's very dangerous, and especially as a beginner, you don't want to do it. So if you're a beginner, I recommend you to start like that, then move here, and then you can go and do the special one. But it's not necessary. It's very unique, and yeah, I just share with you the different options. And I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, stay tuned for more tips. Don't forget to subscribe here. There's going to be more clips here, and I'll see you in the next one. Hai, arigatou gozaimashita. Taifushin bow. See you.